How's it going, everyone? It's Solving Phone Mother SpongeBob. Today is August 25th, the 26th, 2021. And today, we're going to take a look at Tropical Depression 9, which will likely become Hurricane Ida in the future and could potentially develop into a major hurricane. And we'll also briefly discuss about two other potential tropical disturbances that may form into tropical cyclones in the near future. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather reports. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather reports. So let's begin by taking a look at the current 5-day tropical outlook provided from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, and we do see Tropical Depression 9 has formed. It currently has maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour, central millibar pressure down to 1,005 millibars, and it's moving northwest at a clip of 13 miles per hour, which is around an average speed for a tropical cyclone. And we also have two other disturbances which will likely form into tropical cyclones. However, they aren't an immediate threat to land and likely won't be. So we're going to focus on Tropical Depression 9 in this video. So let's first take a look at the water vapor imagery for Tropical Depression 9 for the past several hours, and you see that we're starting to see convection on the eastern side, as the National Hurricane Center earlier today has detected that there's a lower level center of circulation somewhere around this point. But of course, you see that it's dealing with a decent amount of wind shear at this time, because currently we have a little bit of an upper level low center just to the west of Florida at this time, and it's bringing strong southerly upper level winds from the upper level upon this low pressure system. And you see that, and you could easily tell based off of where the clouds are moving, where they're moving directly from the north along with the direction the upper level winds are coming from. So this is dealing with a bit of wind shear right now, which is certainly good news, because the longer it stays under unfavorable conditions like this or very strong shear, the longer it will take to develop, and the less likely it'll develop into its max potential if it doesn't develop very early. However, even if it doesn't develop very early, it's still possible this will rapidly intensify in the Gulf of Mexico. So while it is certainly good news that it isn't really developing right now and that it's under stronger than usual wind shear and potentially could be for the near future, that won't really make a big enough effect to maybe put a stop to this rapidly intensifying or going into bombogenesis in the Gulf of Mexico, where it rapidly develops. So it's certainly good news that we're experiencing wind shear, but don't underestimate it just because of that, as it's expected to develop in the near future. Although there is currently strong wind shear, as this upper level low is expected to fizzle out and sort of weaken, and the wind shear should be relatively light in the future during this storm. And we also do have a decent amount of dry air just to the west of the storm, which is inhibiting development just a little bit. But again, I do expect the wind shear and the stable air to go away once this reaches the Gulf of Mexico, and the conditions should be very favorable for development, for further development in the Gulf of Mexico. So taking a look at the current wind shear right now, we do see that the wind shear in this area is fairly strong right now over the center of circulation. We do have that upper level low located right around Florida at this time. However, we also have an upper level an upper level high that's located just to the south of this storm. However, this upper level high is going to be at a location where it's going to be right over the lower level center of this storm, and as a result, the wind shear should be relatively light within the center of the upper level high, where Ida should be located. And while the wind shear will be outside of the upper level low, the Ida will be right under the upper level high, which means that it should avoid a lot of wind shear as it moves further northwestward, which is certainly the concern. And another thing I want to point out is look at the Gulf of Mexico, how light the wind shear is. We're only seeing 5 to 10 knot winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which is more than light enough for tropical cyclone development, and the atmosphere should become more moist and more unstable in this region, which should promote more tropical cyclone development or rapid intensification once this heads into Gulf of Mexico. So let's now take a look at the computer model, see what they're forecasting with Tropical Storm Ida and UC. We're going to first take a look at the GFS model. Let's actually take a look at the precipitation to see where exactly you could experience precipitation in the Caribbean or maybe the United States. So taking a look at the GFS model, we do see there's a lot of moisture on the northwestern side, while the western side of this storm is completely dry for the most part. However, this dry air is expected to go away. I'm going to show you the relative humidity in the mid levels of the atmosphere between 400 millibars and 700 millibars. We do see dry air to the west side of the storm. However, it's eventually expected to fizzle out, and the dry air shouldn't be much of a problem by the time it reaches the Gulf of Mexico, because look at the Gulf of Mexico. While there is a little bit of dry air in the southwestern portion of the Gulf of Mexico, it's way too far to have major or noticeable impact on this storm's strength, because you see this drops down to 960 millibars only 60 hours from now on August 28th, and you see it drops even further and it gets into a more unstable environment where there's plentiful amount of humidity and moisture in the atmosphere, and that really drops down the pressure and strengthens the storm rapidly as it heads straight towards one of these Gulf Coast states, which currently the consensus is Louisiana, but there's still uncertainty regarding the track, which I'll get into. But I want to show you that the atmosphere will get very moist by the time it reaches the Gulf of Mexico, most likely will, and that could promote rapid intensification in the Gulf of Mexico. There is still uncertainty regarding the forecast. However, when we're talking about a forecast 4 to 3 days out at this point, which is where the storm should be by around the 3-day mark, just before the 3-day mark, it's gonna be, I don't think there's gonna be a lot of dry air to completely hinder this storm, as I think the intensification is likely once this heads into the Gulf of Mexico. The question is, how fast will that intensification be? Because if the intensification is slower, then best case scenario, maybe we only end up with category 1 or maybe a low NCAT 2. However, if there's a little bit more of an unfavorable environment for this storm, where the dry air is a little bit more than expected and entrains the storm a little bit more than expected, like the southwestern portion in the Gulf of Mexico, let's say it comes closer and entrains the center circulation, or it doesn't entrain the center circulation, and then we could maybe see, we likely will see a major hurricane on our hands and rapid intensification, where potentially a category 4 is not out of the question. And I hate to say it, maybe even a category 5 is possible if all the conditions play out correctly for this storm. And so we just need to wait and see. However, the current consensus is that there won't be enough dry air to stop this from rapidly intensifying, as I think the most likely scenario at this point is a category 2 or 3 landfall, or maybe even more, as it seems like it's going to rapidly intensify once this heads into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, taking a look at the wind shear for this storm, you see that this was an upper level low I'm talking to you guys about. It's right over the Florida Keys along the west coast of Florida, and it's bringing some upper level winds over this storm, which is currently inhibiting it from developing. And we do see that upper level high is currently a little bit displaced from where the Ida currently is, which means that Ida is experiencing just a little bit of wind shear. However, if we were to continue to move forward, you see that the wind shear should be lighter, because eventually this upper level high will come closer to Ida's center circulation, and that should displace the wind shear away from the center circulation, and that could promote a more tropical that could promote rapid intensification. We still need to wait and see where the exact location of this upper level high will be, because if it's just a little bit more displaced from the center circulation, then we could see more wind shear than initially anticipated, and that could slow down the storm, which would be the best case scenario. However, the current idea is that there won't be enough wind shear to completely weaken the storm, which is definitely a huge concern. Now, taking a look at the steering flow, because that's going to be another big factor. So currently, the GFS model is taking quite a strong storm into Louisiana at 955 millibars, and that's equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane or maybe a Category 4 hurricane. So that certainly is definitely very concerning, because Category 3s and Category 4 hurricanes are known to cause just extensive devastation to a lot of people, and a lot of times they're deadly. So it's certainly concerning that we're seeing a major hurricane make landfall in Louisiana. But in terms of the steering flow to see where exactly we could see that hurricane landfall, it really all depends on this ridge right here, and it also depends on this trough, because if this trough sort of weakens this ridge a little bit, then we could see a track further eastward where it affects more of maybe New Orleans, the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, Alabama, and even as far east as the Panhandle of Florida. However, if this ridge ends up being just a little bit stronger than expected, then a more westward track is likely. We have to wait and see how this trough reacts and moves, and how this ridge builds over the eastern half of the United States, because that will be huge in determining the exact track of where Ida will go. Currently, the GFS model is leaning towards a slightly more eastward track where it affects New Orleans a little bit more, which is concerning because New Orleans is a highly populated area of Louisiana. And also it could affect more Mississippi and Mobile, Alabama in this case. However, there's still a lot of uncertainty. Taking a look at what the European model is saying regarding the exact track of this storm, you see that the European model wants to take it more westward towards the middle of Louisiana, I'd say. And in terms of what strength the European wants to bring this towards, it's the European is more leaning on bringing a weaker storm towards Louisiana, I'd say centered around 970 to 960 millibars. But keep in mind, that's still a very strong storm. That's easily a Category 2, maybe a Category 3 type hurricane right there when we're talking about a millibar pressure down to 970 and 960 millibars. The GFS model is a little stronger, taking the millibar pressure down to 950, which is equivalent to a Category 3, maybe Category 4 hurricane. So it is definitely concerning that two of the main computer models are taking close to, if not a major hurricane along the Gulf Coast for this week or next week. And so the Gulf Coast, especially Louisiana, needs to pay very close attention to this, because I think this could be a worst case scenario for you guys. So pay close attention to this if you're in those areas. Now, taking a look now at the current ensemble members, and you see that the average of all the tracks are taking it somewhere in middle Louisiana. However, you need to keep in mind that you can't put so much emphasis on where the average forecast is, because this could easily go further west, and this could easily go well further east, to where maybe it could impact the Mississippi Gulf Coast and Mobile, Alabama a little bit more. So do not pay attention to the middle so much, because there could easily be a big shift in the forecast. To put it in perspective, only 2/3 of the time a tropical cyclone would stay within the cone of uncertainty. So there's a 1/3 chance that this tropical cyclone does not stay within the cone at all. And keep in mind, the cone is very large. It includes a large area, and the fact that there's still a 33% chance it doesn't even go within the cone, that really shows that there's still like a lot of uncertainty regarding the exact track of this storm. However, the current consensus, I will say with confidence, that we will see some sort of hurricane landfall somewhere along the Gulf Coast. The questions remain: how strong will it be? Or where exactly it will move, as those are two big questions that computer models are trying to figure out at this time. However, I will say that somewhere in the Gulf Coast, you likely will experience hurricane impacts. So make sure to stay on high alert along the Gulf Coast. At my forecast, keep in mind, this is just my speculation alone. If you for official guidance, consult the National Hurricane Center. So I do expect I'm expecting this storm to strengthen into 120 miles per hour Sunday morning, which is major hurricane status based on what the computer models are saying, as I think it's likely that we will see some sort of major hurricane landfall somewhere in the United States. So all the way from Texas to Mississippi, you need to pay close attention to this. Because it could go anywhere within this cone in terms of what the National Hurricane Center is saying. Taking a look at that, you see that National Hurricane Center wants to take this storm towards the right around the middle of Louisiana, but again, there's still large uncertainty regarding where exactly this could go. So make sure to keep that in mind for all the Gulf Coast states in the future. And in terms of anything else we're watching, or actually let me first go over the rainfall, because wherever this makes rainfall, just expect just a ton of rain, because you see the rainfall accumulation is around 10 to 15 inches right around New Orleans metropolitan area, as that's just devastating amount of rainfall, as it'll easily cause flooding and potentially life-threatening flooding, and flash flooding would be likely in a scenario like this. So, and this even extends further northward, more inland into Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas. So keep in mind just very heavy rainfall, as I think this could potentially be major for a lot of you guys. Now, taking a look at other tropical disturbances, we have two which have a likely chance of developing at this time, 70% chance for both of them. However, the current consensus from the computer models is that this won't really affect land, which is certainly good news. If we were to take a look at the computer models for over the next several days, you see that that this storm is expected to just drift off northward, not be much of a threat, and you see that this is expected to just move out to sea, so not much of a big worry right there, which is certainly good news for yeah, guys, for the Gulf Coast states, you need to pay close attention. Just stay on high alert, because I think this could potentially be life-threatening for some people. But I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. And I hope you guys have a good day.